Hey, good evening and welcome. Another episode of Cattle Drive Live. Corey and I rolling in here mid to late week. Corey, a little different for us.
No, boy, we're just running around trying to catch our tails this time of year, I think.
It's funny. We were both in Kansas City and never saw each other. I was in, you
Nope,
were in, we were both out.
nope. Visited 500 people down there and didn't run into. We were stalled
Uh,
upstairs and you were down in that annex and never
yeah.
never ran into you.
Yeah, but that's just about how the last month has been. I think for everybody, which is a good thing. Everybody, if you turn on the news and you talk about, see what's going on in the world, it can be pretty dang depressing. I think if you leave, I haven't turned the news on and I don't know how long, and I've been out and about, and people are calling wanting to come look at bulls and cattle are moving, and it's life's pretty good if you go looking for it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. Big episode tonight. We got Shane Schaake with us. He's the area sales manager for BioZyme Vitafirm in Kansas area. I think that he's got a new title. I've been saying he is the American Royal in-house announcer. He is the tow truck operator, and he is the new unloading director for all things American Royal. So,
American Royal. Yeah, he is
mhm.
on a big role down there in that show for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's good. I tell you what, there were some pretty good vibes in Kansas City this year, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Man, the
So,
quality of cattle in every breed, boy, just absolutely blow your mind how
yeah.
good we're making cattle nowadays.
Yeah, it is. And this is one of the first times for me that just watching a few of the shows, it'd be interesting to get Shane in here in a minute and ask him too. But you're starting to see a little separation in breed. I think there for a while we got to a point where everything looked the same. They were different color. And I think now you're starting to see some separation. We started as a whole opening these cattle back up,
Yep.
and those breeds that's got the punch in them, they're showing it just a little quicker than some of the
Yeah.
others.
That
But
was a common theme I heard around Kansas City there for sure. I heard more muscle talk in breeding cattle shows at that show than I have in years.
yeah, I completely agree with you. It'll be fun to get him in here here before too long. But hey, this episode, Corey, is brought to us by Finning Show Cattle. Their upcoming SC online sale on October the 31st. The Finning crew from out at Coldwater, Ohio. There's four selected lots right there, Corey. A Brilliance daughter that's out of a Primo Annie Lou. That's
Mm-hmm.
a got packs a little punch on paper as well. There's an onset out of the dump Lucy donor. She's
Yep.
actually like almost 10% high key. There's a limitless Xenia. She's a half blood Simmental as well as an I-80 Bella, which is a blacklist Sooner Harrietta maintainer female. But these guys have an upcoming sale October 31st on SC Online Sales. And so check them out. They'd be happy to visit with you. I think Carrie Lawrence is their sale rep. So,
Yep. Yep. I know the Finning family well. Good people, good cattle. They sure love to visit with you for sure.
I tell you what, if a guy's not out of money yet in Ohio, I tell you what they ought to do. If they hadn't had anybody come by, man needs to call Mr. Angus out there because I bet he's got a satchel full of cash after that online sale SC a few weeks ago.
No boy. Oh boy.
Oh, I mean, Will Core flat got a hold of them and had the internet stirred up on his online sale a few weeks ago. Holy smokes.
One of the most talked about heifers of the season for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, well, she brings what 400 plus.
Yeah, it brings 413. It was like it was
413.
like watching it was like being in Vegas. I mean, you could see that thing turn in real
Yep.
time. Those guys were they were
Yep.
getting after it. So
Mhm.
yeah, it
I
was
tell you what, just a few days after that, our friends down there at Udell's, they they actually had an auctioneer do it, and they sell one for an even 500, right?
That's what yeah, that is exactly right. And
Yep.
so made
Yep.
0413 look like a thing of the past.
And they were a drive marketing customer. Udell's were.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I,
yeah. You
I'm
did it.
not.
That's right.
I'm not. I mean, there's just a comparison. What a drive marketing does.
Yeah,
Brother,
yeah,
brother ain't
exactly.
7,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We just did one for Trent Ray last night. The expectations just shot through the roof.
Are high. Yep, they are high.
But he didn't do it with me. You did the Udell one, so I'll give you
Yep.
props. That you probably brought lots of game.
I watched Trent's today. It looks like a hell of a set of them.
Oh yeah, it's without a doubt. Hey, let's not sit over here and yak with each other much longer. Let's drag Shane in here when we can. He's I was enjoying you being late. Hey Shane, how are you, man?
Good. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing good.
As you can
Good,
tell,
good,
we're having
good.
a good
Hopefully you
time.
guys can see me okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually currently on the way back home. We had some area sales meetings. So I was, you were saying earlier, I was in there for Royal at Kansas City, and I checked into the hotel, and they go, "So how, we got you here for about, holy smokes, 19 nights." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds about right." And got home for about 30 hours and had to go back to Kansas City on Monday for some sales meetings. So
Holy cow.
Wow. Hey, we just hit on the American Royal, and we were both talking about the vibe around there this year was rather unique. I felt like, that show's always one that if you're in the show steer world, um, it's to me, it's got to be one that a guy just gears up for, just in terms of what that thing will bring at the end of the day. But the breeding cattle side of it this year, just, I mean, gosh, the quality was through the roof.
yeah, I tell you what, it's been fun to watch this thing really grow and evolve because we all try and make the next great one, or it's always fun to see them high selling ones and see how they turn out. But man, it's the quality this year. I was telling some of the guys there at the Royal, I said the quality this year is just second to none. It seems like every year it keeps getting a little bit big, a little bit better and better. And boy, this year they sure brought the heat.
Mm-hmm. What's that got? This is the second year, is that right? Shane tackled that project down there.
What's that?
Is this the second year you've tackled kind of helping manage the Royal down there?
No, this would be about the third year, I think. The
Third.
first year I did it, it was actually COVID year, and
Oh,
then I tell you what, numbers were just crazy high. And then last year was good. This year, I think even all of our market numbers were up. I think some of the breeding cattle might have been down just a little bit, but I think I'm going to kind of relate that to $5 fuel and $200 hotel rooms because the good ones still showed up. It didn't stop them guys, but it seemed like we were just a skosh down on some of the breeding cattle.
Give us a little bit of insight. I know it's unfair, Corey. While we were waiting tonight, I kind of told Shane that we had tried to get his dad here a week or so ago, and I don't know that. And I said it. I said maybe he felt like we were going to dig on him about something, and we were. We wanted to dig into his old mind a little bit on what it was like there in Kansas City, and we're fortunate enough to be able to have Shane here tonight, Corey. So Shane, let's start at the front of the week. Let's talk about those steers. Let's talk about. I know you said you visited with your dad. Talk us through what was going through his mind and the steers and X, Y's, and Z's.
Yeah, so he asked me the morning he showed up, and if you know my father, he's kind of a tightwad. He doesn't like to spend any money. So he actually drove from Manhattan the morning of and showed up there right before the steer show, and he had his cup of coffee in hand and he was ready to go. And in fact, on the way he called me, he said, "So how many head we got? How long of a time do we got to get done by a certain time?" I said, "I think there was 146 head that ended up showing up." And I said, "The only thing I ask is you get done by 4 o'clock." And he said, "Oh, heck, we can do that. No problem." So I said, "All right, with that after that, y'all kind of just do what you need to do. And he actually told me before he judged, he goes, we went something a little different this year, I believe. And he said something to the fact about, I think we're going to go ahead and, I'll place the ones I need to place. And then I'm going to start talking from the bottom up and start describing all them cattle and just kind of build the suspense a little more. And so I thought that was pretty unique with how he started, talking 4 out of the 8 or whatever it was, or 10 out of the 15 or whatever he needed to talk, and kind of go from there. And after we got done, he said the same thing. He said, numbers were up a little bit, but boy, it seemed like the quality this year was just better than what it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that was a unique way of doing it. Something I enjoyed to watch. I imagine showing them, it's sure nerve-wracking to have the final 3 out there and not knowing if you're first or third, But yeah. Boy, you dang sure sit there on the edge of your seat, that's for sure.
Well, and the cool thing was, nobody left the show ring. So he kind of forced everybody to listen and really think about and kind of see what he was seeing. So hopefully that cut down on some of the questions. I know he always tells me, after a show, I always got people that come up and say, hey, what didn't you like about my calf, this and that? Well, this way he can actually accurately describe them and tell them, hey, this is what we got. Nobody's torn away off the ring or anything like that. So it was fun. It was unique.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, did he mention anything, or did you even talk? What was it like working? What did he say about working alongside Kevin Newman?
He enjoyed it. He really enjoyed it. I know this was actually, I believe, the first year that the Royals ever done any associates, and sometimes those associates can either help the show, or it seems like sometimes they might drag it out a little bit. But I thought this year it went real smooth, and he picked Kevin and kind of thought, let's get somebody on the breeder side of it that's actually bred these things and made them and understands how hard it is to actually make a great one. And I know, whenever we're mating cattle and looking at what we're going to do in the spring to start making calves for the next year, it's always the next challenge is let's make the next great one. And so when he actually told me after the show there, he goes, I looked at Kevin, I said, all right, Kevin, which one's the hardest one to make? Which one would take the most breeding decisions, try and make the best? And I think that's the champion that he is. We were talking just beforehand, and I personally think he could have thrown the dice and still come up with 2 good ones out of the 6 we're standing out there. But, he really thought, talking with Kevin, and Kevin said, hey, these 2 right here, you can maybe make one of them a lifetime. So thought that was pretty neat.
You bet. And that one, tell me if I'm wrong, but that one weighs in. He was just a shot over 14, wasn't he?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think he would have been. He was definitely in that last division. He would have been out of class 7, I believe, and I think he was 14 and a quarter, 14 and a half, somewhere in there. Yep. Which, most typically it seems like that middleweight division is kind of the one to get around. And, I guess as an industry and on the commercial side of it, there's a lot of guys that are feeding cattle bigger than 1,400. So it's kind of neat to see something like this being done in the show ring.
We've tiptoed around it, it seems like, and everybody's talked about it. And I know Jack Ward, has said several times he's been itching to pick one, in the light 14s, and I think it's good. I mean, it's not every show that you have one that's fresh enough in the light 14s, but I think it's good that one finally made it across the finish line just to open that door a little bit. Because like you said, there's as many of them killed at that weight. There's more of them killed at that weight than there is at 1350 every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dad did tell me, he said, when you put your hands on this one, he's not overly fat. Like he was 12 o'clock on the dot right there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, especially feeding one. Man, it takes a lot to figure out exactly when they're going to finish and how they're going to finish. And that's good.
Your dad got talking about the baldy head on that middleweight, and boy, I thought he was in love with that calf in that class, and I imagine this one really must have looked the part in that grand dog to sneak by him.
Yeah, yeah. I think he said on the mic, them brockle faces always got a place in my heart. And being a semi breeder, boy, that's the truth right there. But this is a dang good calf as well. And both of them, to see their structure out there in the ring and just move as fluent as a cat, boy, that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Right. You hit on it a minute ago talking about these steers. Your family, Corey, how many, I don't know how many times me and you have done a show or commentated. It never fails. Either we discuss it or somebody texts us Red Rocky. And we have the good fortune right now to have Shane with us, who had something to do with Red Rocky, the steer. How many times does that steer get referenced today?
Yeah, that was a good rascal back then, and even today, I think if you bring him out, and it's cattle always change, but man, he was neat.
Yeah. If you ask all them, them guys that are at the upper echelon of the steer industry, what are some of the all-time greats? I mean, he sure seems to consistently be in everybody's top 5. How did Mark Hogue describe that calf? A zoo animal or something like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Elephant, or he's got feet like a rhino, legs like an elephant, and a neck like a giraffe, or something like that on the microphone. Yeah.
It's funny, and something else too, when listening to Shane, listening to you talk about your dad working with Newman, being from the breeder side. Corey, do you remember the us eating dinner at OYE this year with Mark Hogue and Jesse?
Oh yeah.
We witnessed quite possibly the greatest argument ever known to man between Mark Hogue, the livestock evaluator, and Jesse Heimer, the great fearless Hampshire breeder you've ever heard in your life. It is still my favorite conversation that I got to witness. So I love it.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Oh boy.
I'm glad that I was. I didn't say much that night. I was intrigued. I always like listening to Mark Hogue. I think Mark Hogue could count rocks in the parking lot, and you would listen because he would describe the rocks in a way you've never thought of them. And Jesse Heimer could tell you exactly why there was a difference in the two rocks because he thinks on that level. So
yeah, Jesse would tell you how to breed the rocks to make a better rock.
Yeah, exactly. If you'll take this gray one and put it with this blue one, you can make concrete or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it's awesome. So, hey, let's not get lost in the show. Two fantastic steers that you obviously had a little tie with your dad. But let's move into these breeding cattle. Corey, you mentioned earlier you heard more talk this week of muscle in the breeding cattle side that you've heard in a long time.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. That's the first time I've ever left a show and thought, man, we're finally getting these cattle stouter consistently. Like, there's enough of them to put together classes and kind of use them ones that had some back shape and extra muscle to them.
Yeah.
Did you get to watch many of the breeding cattle shows, Shane?
What's that?
Did you get a chance to watch much of the breeding cattle?
Yeah. Between running around and yelling at people to move their vehicles, I poked my head in every once in a while. And, like you said, I tell you what's really changed the most, I think, is a lot of these Angus cattle were starting to put some punch into these things. And watching those shows, man, those look good. I thought, and I might be a little partial, but I listened to a lot of the Hereford show, and Kyle Perez did the open show there. And, we really went back to some of the fundamentals and talked about structure and muscle and, easy doing kind of cattle. And I really think that, that's a lot what our champions look like. The structure was phenomenal in all of them. had plenty of muscle. They're cattle that can go out and do what we need them to do.
Yeah, exactly. The Supreme female this year, to be no surprise, it seems like they're always a player at some level. The Angus female.
Yep.
Uh,
Sold in Beatty's sale out there in Colorado. Jake and Ashley Wagner managed that sale. Heifer had a great show career her whole life, and was no shock that she was competitive when it counted there at the big one.
Right. Hey Shane, what was the deal there? Just for curiosity reason, I have had a few people ask. Mark Core was slated to select the Supreme. He stepped aside. Tell the story of what happened there for those wondering.
Well, actually, I believe he had part of the percentage semi. He actually, just kind of a conflict of interest type of deal. And actually, I'm Jeff Nemechek. He's kind of the livestock salesman or the livestock manager now at the Royal. He made a call to Mark, and I think Mark pretty much said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that because it'd be a conflict for me." And so we pulled in Goody there, and he seemed to do a good job. And actually, when we were walking around, and I've never seen that many good cattle in that ring all at one time before. Holy smokes, that was this line up there. We had a couple of people ask me just for pictures, like, now which one's going to win it? I said, boy, I don't know, but here's my top 5. And I said, you probably ought to stick around then there and be close to when they slap them. And that Angus right there, she was definitely one of the top 5.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. I just think I think that's cool what Mark did. I wanted you to tell the story, but I just think it's neat, the opportunity to get to judge a Supreme title at the American Royal, or coming up here in Louisville in a few weeks. We got the Bloomberg brothers. To be given that opportunity, or number one, not given that you earn that opportunity. But then to be man enough to say, hey, I'm going to have to step aside, because that says to me a lot about somebody's character, when you can do that and step aside, step out, and give that opportunity up. So
yeah, absolutely. I can almost promise you he's going to go back on the list again to get to do it here pretty quick, I hope. So, but it tells you a lot about a person's integrity when they say, nah, I can't do that. So pretty interesting.
The only time, and I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say this, the only time that I won't appreciate that is in 2 or 3 weeks at Louisville. Those 2 brothers are going to get the chance to step in the ring and do something that their dad was going to do. And I'll tell you what, I don't care if there's 12 of them in there with Bloomberg ear tags in them. I want them 2 guys to be in that ring because they'll do what's right. I'm not trying to make a comparison. I'm just saying that I just thought that was cool on Mark's part to step aside. But pretty neat stuff. So anyway, no, it was good all the way around. What about you, Shane? We hit on you being part of BioZyme and VitaFirm. Talk to us just a little bit about that. Gosh, it seems like it's dry all across the country.
Oh yeah, I tell you what, being a Royal, I hadn't been out and seen it very much lately, but you get to looking, especially driving to and from Kansas City. We're dry in Kansas, and talked to some guys there at the meeting this week, and they're dry everywhere. And the cool thing about what we get to do is with the prebiotic that we make, Amifirm, we're actually able to utilize more of that forage. And my wife told me just the other day, she goes, man, our cows are getting out, they're getting hungry, but they're fatter than a tick. And I said, well, yeah, I'm not feeding them until the snow starts flying. And the only reason I'm not feeding them is because they are so fat, because of the prebiotic. And, it's fun to be able to hopefully put some dollars in guys' pockets and, show them we can cut down on some feed costs this year, especially when corn's expensive, hay's expensive. It's an interesting time to be alive, for dang sure.
Right.
I'm glad, Shane, to hear that you guys had meetings today. I tried to call Alan Lee twice today, and I thought he was ignoring me. So I'm glad to hear that he was just busy.
Yeah, he was up front ramrodding the whole deal, kind of doing the Alan thing. And He wasn't ignoring you. I promise you'll get a call back from him. It might be tomorrow. It might be 3 days.
I actually just missed a call for him right when we hopped on here. I was going to call that done.
Yeah, and actually, those 2 steers were actually on Sure Champ. The Grand Reserve, are both on Sure Champ this year. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they're on Sure Champ cattle as well as Joint Juice, because them things just floated around the ring. And I meant to mention that earlier, and I just forgot about it until now.
Oh, yeah.
So, in terms of VitaFerm, BioZyme, I know it's one big company, however we want to refer to it. We talked about it being dry. Is there a specific product that you feel helps them cattle utilize some forage this time of year that maybe will stretch your grass out, or is there something, that combines with some? It seems like for us anyway, this time of year, those cattle are in mid to late gestation for some people, and we just kind of forget about them and send them to grass. Is there something a guy needs to be doing with them cattle you think helps?
Boy, I tell you what, the main thing is just keeping some sort of amiferm in them, whether it's in loose mineral, or if we need the extra shot of protein right now for them cows, getting a protein tub out there for them, or whatever it is. The main thing is just keeping that amiferm, because by utilizing that amiferm, we're actually giving them an extra pound of corn and soybean is kind of what it equates to. So we're basically making free energy and protein for these things. And so by keeping that out for them, we can drop the feed costs and not have to start feeding near as early. The main thing is just keeping the amiferm in front of them.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would completely agree with you on there, keeping something in front of them cattle and don't let them get behind. So,
Yep.
You bet. You bet. Well, Shane, man, it has been good to have you on tonight. I hope we didn't hang you up too much getting home. I felt terrible now that I know you've been gone 20 days from home. Here we hair lipped you for 30 minutes to talk to Corey and I. So.
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate it. I'll always jump on for you too. So thanks for having me on again. And I know my wife's going to be excited when I get home, because she doesn't have to do chores well, she'll probably still have to do the chores, but at least I'll get the cows checked every once in a while now.
There you go. Good deal. Hey, thanks, and be careful on the rest of the way home.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Shane.
You bet. Oh, man. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard him say, we need to move your truck, or we're fixing to do this or that. And finally, I told him one time up by the ring, I said, hey, if you'd have hauled one of them things off 3 days ago, nobody would park in here. And he laughed and said, I know. Gosh, I'd feel terrible if it was like somebody like your truck or something. And so he's just too damn nice of a guy. I love him to death. But anyway, hey, let's wrap this thing up. Cattlemen's for Christ this week. Corey is Hebrews 11:1. Says faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things that we can't see. And so can't see everything, but just have faith that it's all going to work out. So speaking of having faith, give us an update on you, brother. What's going on?
Oh, we're still getting along. Just got to wait till the first week of December and go in and start getting some scans done and see how everything come out.
That's awesome. It still never fails. It's a weekly deal on my part. I get somebody to text me or Kansas City, hey, how's Corey? So you're people still thinking of you, man.
I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, hey, take care.
Hey.
I think we're going to ramrod next week. What you got?
Hey, another thing we got is your birthday today.
It is
right there.
Birthday. Yeah, it does say.
Just typed in there, happy birthday, Brett. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate that. Corey, thanks. So
you bet. I hope you had a good one.
Lacey, I had quite a few funny memes. Can't share them all, but I can tell you this morning I got one from Andy Jones that I still laugh. I saved that one, and Brian Fox. If y'all two are listening, you two win the war today on the birthday stuff. So it's good stuff.
I can only imagine.
Oh man. Well, hey, take care, and I guess we'll meet up first the next week. And have you got far enough along to tell anybody who we might have next week, or no?
No, not yet. But we'll announce it here within the next 2 days.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So
Yeah.
tune in next week. All right. Appreciate it, man. See you.